In the heart of the modern city, where cars rush by and the streets are filled with people glued to their phone screens, life moved like a pulsing digital network that never slept. In cafes, silence replaced conversation, only the tapping of fingers on glass. In offices, eyes stayed fixed on monitors, and keyboards clicked without pause. But suddenly, a strange silence. Wi-Fi signals vanished, and internet devices came to a complete stop. Phones lost connection, screens froze, and websites refused to load. At first, people thought it was just a temporary glitch. But little by little, a terrifying truth began to unfold. The internet was gone. At first, people clung to hope. In their homes, they kept restarting their routers, staring at the message service unavailable, as if it might suddenly disappear. Some believed the issue was just with their devices. In offices, the situation was even more unsettling. Employees sat helpless, systems unresponsive, screens black, and speakers offering nothing but an unfamiliar silence. Months passed. Slowly, people began to realize this wasn't temporary. In cafes, friends started talking, perhaps for the first time in a long while, without being interrupted by notifications or alerts. No messages, no networks, just real faces and simple conversations. And out in the streets, people began to gather, looking at one another, asking questions, trying to understand why, what happened, and how would they go on without the internet. In the markets, chaos began to unfold. People stood in long lines trying to pay, but credit cards didn't work, and the electronic payment apps were unresponsive. Employees at gas stations were in the same predicament, unable to use the digital payment systems, and the atmosphere was charged with tension. In universities, students and teachers were completely helpless. There was no communication, no digital resources available. Chaos ensued as no one could follow lessons. In these moments, people tried to return to old methods, but it wasn't easy. Many had forgotten how to live without the internet, and the anxiety was palpable. Desperate moments emerged when groups of people attempted to use books and notebooks, but the information they needed had become scarce. Amid all this, life was changing rapidly, and everyone wondered, would we be able to adapt? Over time, people begin to adapt to the new situation. Some discover the joy of face-to-face communication for the first time in a long while. At home, families start sitting together and talking instead of looking at their phones. In libraries, students search for paper resources to complete their studies. In offices, employees return to using paper and pens, and they begin collaborating in more traditional ways. After days without the internet, Sami started to feel isolated. While walking around the house, he discovered an old landline phone. He hesitantly pressed the buttons, and his mother's warm and clear voice came through. It was the first time in a long while that he spoke to her without being distracted by phone notifications. During the call, he began asking her about her day, childhood memories, and things he had never paid attention to before. Suddenly, he realized how those simple moments were full of meaning. In that moment, he understood that real communication doesn't require the internet, but genuine attention. After the call, Sami sat down, smiling. For the first time since the internet disappeared, he didn't feel anxious. He decided to go out and meet his friends, marking a new beginning in a world without the internet. That evening, the streets of the city were lit with dim lights, and people sat on public benches, talking face to face, while children played in the streets without phones or devices. In this quiet scene, Sami enters the attic of his house. He notices an old diary, covered in dust and dirt. He opens it carefully and starts reading the mysterious notes written by someone else. There are mentions of the internet disappearing in the past, warnings about a major shift in the world, and references to a strange person believed to have been behind it. As his anxiety grows, Sami feels something strange in the air. He tries to contact his friends using the landline, but nothing happens. Suddenly, a strange figure appears in the attic window and quickly disappears, causing Sami to freeze for a moment, wondering what is happening. Looking out of the window, he observes the city, sensing something mysterious surrounding the story. He begins to think that there's something bigger than just the disappearance of the internet, something that makes him need to search for the truth. Sami decides to set the diary aside and heads toward the door with determination, resolute to discover more. He feels the story is far from over, and he must continue his search for answers. A group of researchers and technicians gathered around old documents and computers that were no longer connected to any network. Among them was Sami, who, while searching through an abandoned computer, found a mysterious encrypted file. After hours of work, he finally managed to decrypt it and discovered the shocking truth. A message appeared on the screen, saying, "The internet didn't disappear suddenly. It was deliberately shut down." In that moment, Sami felt a deep shock, while the faces of his colleagues were filled with astonishment. Who shut down the internet? And why? Are we free now or just pawns in a larger game? As Sami looks outside, he sees the world returning to normal. But the most important question now, which the viewers ask, is, were we living in an illusion all along?